Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we're going to be 3D modeling this object in SolidWorks. So the first thing I want to do is kind of study this and have a good approach to how I'm going to draw this by finding where my origin is, which is pretty easy here. It's on this little front corner, but also having an understanding of what I might sketch first. So while I'm looking at this, I can kind of see an angled surface here, curved surface there, another curved surface there. So I always recommend, drawing the shape that's either like an angled surface or a curved surface, drawing it from the side that you will actually see that feature. But in this case, we have multiples of those. It's not just a simple shape. So you kind of have to pick and choose your battles here of what's the best way of doing this. I'm kind of looking at this more like if this cutout wasn't here, this big piece wasn't cut away, this whole entire back piece would be one big solid piece minus this little curve. So I could draw that all as one chunk, and have that little curve also in that same sketch. This same thing is just one big piece as well. So I'm not looking at it from the front view or from the side view. I'd actually be drawing this from the top view, and then I'd do something different to cut this on an angle and remove that away. So I now know just by looking at this, I'm going to be drawing from the top view. I can see there's a lot of solid numbers, so that also indicates that I'm not going to be in IPS, I am in MMGS. So there is my kind of approach. I'm going to be drawing from the top view. So I'm going to pull this off to the side. I'm going to start a new part. And before I start drawing, I want to change from IPS to MMGS. Now I'm going to sketch on the top plane. And I'll start out by basically just drawing a rectangle. Okay, so I'm just going to come down here on this corner and just draw a rectangle up like that. And then it has that ramp piece connected to it, which from the top view would just be an angle. Okay, something like this. Then I'm going to get the line tool. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. I'll hit escape, get my line tool again. I'll go from the bottom back up, hit escape. And then this is like a half circle or an arc right here. So I'm just going to do the 3-point arc. I'll kind of wrap down around like that. Okay, so from the top view, that's very close to the actual shape. Now, obviously, there's going to be something cut out over here yet, but that's later on. So let's start dimensioning this entire thing. So the overall here, it says this bottom line is going to be 70. This might cause some shrinkage issues. There you go. So if that did happen, if your lines like overlap or something, just get off of the Smart Dimension tool and just move some dots around to help yourself if stuff overlapped. So then from this line to this line here, it says it's 60. Okay, the overall depth is not easily determined, but I'll show you here how we're going to do that. So if I come over here, there's nothing that says from this corner to this corner. But what it does have is 10, diameter of 32, which really, this should be more shown in radius, and it should say from the center out because this is not a complete circle. But we just need to know that from that line to that line it's 32, and then another 10. So you could mentally add that up. 10 plus 32 is 42, plus another 10, is 52. So you could do it right here. Or what we probably should do is just dimension what we actually see in the picture. So this is 10. Okay, this is also 10. And then the diameter of this, see, and this is what I mean by radius. It's going to only show radius because it's an arc. So instead, we're going to go from that dot to this dot. That's going to be 32. Okay. Now, you can see some of my stuff started to overlap each other. So I'm just going to zoom in, just grab a blue dot and start to adjust some things here a little bit. Okay. Now, even though we determined what the diameter is of this circle or arc itself can kind of still shrink or grow a little bit, and that's all because of the center point. So anytime you're working with an arc or a circle, you need to know two things. Its size, which in this case is 32. in diameter. And you also need to know the location of its center. So the center point here needs to be straight up and down from this line and this line. So I'm just going to select that, hold in shift and select one of these lines, and I'll just say coincident. Now it's not connecting to it, but what it's saying is if this line were to continue, it would run right through that dot. Okay, now that brought that all into size, and you can see that's all fully defined. Now this is the little ramp part that is extra here. So if we're starting to look at that itself, we can see from the origin, we're just going to be working our way back. This line here, which in this case is the line here, which we're seeing, that says it's 16. From the edge of the line that we have all the way out to the end of the rectangle is 17, and then that's 20 wide. So that 5 is going to come into play later on. Okay. So smart dimension, again, from the origin to here, it says is 16. It has the overall width of this thing, or how far out that goes, is 17. And then the depth of this is 20. And that should fully define this. So now I'm ready to extrude. So go to Features tab and hit Extrude. And the origin's at the bottom corner, so this is pretty easy. So I'm just going to do this part first. So I'm going to go from there all the way up. So I did an example here with midplane last, so I'm going to change this back to blind. And I want to go from the bottom all the way up to the top. So it actually has a little, two different dimensions there. It has a 19 for this first part, and then a 26 from that. So we'll just add those two together. So 19 plus 26. SOLIDWORKS will do it for us, so it's going to be 45 tall. Okay. Now we'll hit extrude again, and it's going to ask us to pick an existing sketch. So we'll hit the drop down, select the same sketch as before. Okay, we'll click in this area, and we'll also click in this area. We probably could have trimmed that line, but it's okay. So this part is only going to go up 19, like the picture shows us. Now we have that part of the body. Now to get this to be a triangular shape, you could sketch on the side and draw in your triangle and cut it off, but I'm actually going to go up to the chamfer. So underneath fillet, there's chamfer, and this is on the Features tab. Okay. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can chamfer. In this case, we don't have any type of measurements in degrees. So we don't have any angles. So you can see these little symbols. It shows angle, A, and D for distance. So angle and distance. What we have is two different distances. So I'm going to check this one. So now it shows only one distance. You might be saying, well, here it says distance and distance. Well, that's because this is still set to symmetric. So that would mean if they're even. Okay, so I'm going to change this to asymmetric, and that gives me two different measurements. Right, so one of them here has to be the height. So it's going to go from there all the way down. So we'll say this one's going to be 19. And then the second one, we have to do a little bit of math, but it's really simple math. So the overall width of this, that this comes out, is 17. What we want to have left over is 5. So 17 minus 5, you've got 12. Okay, so I'm going to set this other measurement to 12. So it's kind of tricky to understand here. Some of you might have looking at this and you're like, well, it would have been easier probably just to draw the triangle, and maybe so. But in this case, it's just showing you, this by clicking on this corner here, it's going to kind of just do what it wants to. It's going to pick whatever side first, and this side it picked the 19, and it picked the 12 for here. But that's not what we want. Okay, so let's hit cancel, and I'm going to try to do that again. Should still have all my measurements, which nope, it didn't. It should have, but it didn't. So I'll switch all that back. In this case, instead of going 19 and 12, let's go 12 and 19. But the real way of fixing that would have been knowing which side that this is first. And I believe you could click on the actual sides. But now if I click on that edge, now it's going to go the way we want it. So it did 19 here and 12 there. Hit the green check. Okay, so now that's all done. So let's rotate around to the back, and we're going to sketch on this surface back here. Okay. And this has one big arc that just gets cut in. So I'm going to take my line tool. I'm going to start up in this top right corner, and I'm going to trace across. Okay, I'll hit escape, get my line tool again, go down, I'll hit escape, and now I need an arc that goes over here. So I'm going to use my 3-point arc. Okay, now I'm using my 3-point arc because I don't know where my center is. Now a lot of you would probably draw in the arc first, and you probably would have connected it to this top corner. Well, if you did that, yours is not going to get put in correctly. All your measurements are going to yell at you. It's going to say, it's not possible, it's not possible. Well, I did it in a different way. I started from the corner and did the lines just because I know that it's not going to allow you to do it with the center point on the center here. So it says from the back edge, which is actually this edge, to this dot. So I got my dimension tool and I selected those two. It says that is 16. It says from the origin up to this, or from the bottom rather, up to this is 10. You can already see my center points floating out here. And then the radius of this is 40. Okay, so that's all good. So I'll go to my features tab and hit extrude. Okay, and this goes in 35, and you can see that in the picture. Just cut that. So that was extrude cut, not normal extrude. Cut that off, and you can see our origin's right in the corner where it should be. So we just need to change our material. So this is AISI 1020. So we're going to hit edit material, and it's right there in the steel folder. Apply and close. Let's check our mass. If I bring this over, we have exactly what we should have here. So we did that correct. If you have any mistakes, obviously go back in the video and try to problem solve and figure out where you went wrong. If you got that correct, you can save it and you can move on to the next one.